Thank you, Caitlin. McLean County's Finance Committee voted 4-2 tonight to recommend the maximum tax rates on Illinois' new cash crop, cannabis. But even if your community said no to recreational pot shops, you can still expect to see tangible benefits as state tax coffers start to fill. The month of January saw just under $40 million in sales of recreational marijuana, and the tax rate can be as high as 35%. Tyler, that kind of revenue could certainly help a lot of communities.
Right, Caitlin. We know that Morton said no to recreational pot, Canton said yes, but really everyone can access state marijuana tax dollars. Here's where they'll go. 35% to the general fund. That's where politics gets involved. Each lawmaker has a say. The rest, fixed expenses. 25% to restore, reinvest, and renew, R3. That's a favorite of one of our local reps. We'll talk with her in a moment. They deal with violence prevention, reentry, and health services. 20% of this tax revenue goes toward substance abuse and mental health care only. That's a favorite of one of our local sheriffs. We'll talk with him as well. Our state's overdue bill backlog gets now 10% in dedicated revenue funding every year. 8% goes to law enforcement and 2% to public safety and education campaigns. Peoria's sheriff can't wait to access at least 2 of these buckets or pots, whereas one of the law's architects is passionate about R3.
As a people, I really believe we've lost the ability to dream.
State Representative Jahan Gordon Booth dreams of the good things marijuana money can do.
Always think community-based organizations, not-for-profits, schools, they're going to have some good plans, right? Like it's probably going to have to be a bit more than I have an idea in my head, and we want you to fund it.
What's your name?
But for law enforcement, there's no dreaming. Severe mental illness is staring them in the face every day.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It was January 11th on a bridge above Interstate 474. A young man was ready to jump. 2 deputies worked together, relying on instinct and training to end it safely. They count the inmates at the Peoria County Jail 6 times a day, always watching. More often than not, they're dealing with these kinds of difficult and dangerous motivations.
You're not treating it. You're dealing with the acute symptom at the time. You're dealing with the situation. You're dealing with the crisis. It's $1.3 million of my budget.
Sheriff Brian Aspel wants to do more.
We're keeping people alive.
Now, the sheriff estimates 80% of his inmates have some kind of a mental health illness. But he's only got medical professionals in this facility to treat those conditions about 60 hours a week. And these medicines they administer, insulin, help with drug addiction, anxiety, they're pricey.
4 times what we used to spend on drugs, on medications, especially those that deal with mental illness. Those are high dollar meds that we have to pay for.
The pink cards indicate an upcoming sentence, pretrial hearings for the blue. 10 years ago, there were 500 inmate cards like these. On this day, it's down to 287, saving $80 per day per inmate who's not here. Sheriff Aspel sees recreational marijuana tax money funding ways to break the cycle of arrest and rearrest, a problem for 70% of his inmates.
Anything's going to help. Anything's going to help, but I think it's too soon to judge how this money's going to be managed. Right now, it's a shiny new toy. So the revenues, I believe, are a little bit inflated.
Representative Gordon Booth helped build that shiny new toy, crafting the cannabis law.
You'll see communities like Peoria getting a significant chunk of those resources to be able to invest back in mental health, back in housing.
She sees an ongoing revenue stream in 3 to 5 years, possibly generating $125 million a year just for her R3 initiative, centered on human capital, righting the wrongs of the war on drugs.
We certainly will see resources going into communities as early as this year. Your United Ways, your urban leagues, your boys and girls clubs. It's definitely going to help bolster.
And on this point, her Republican Peoria counterpart, Representative Ryan Spain, who voted against recreational pot, agrees the tax revenues will help.
And it may take us through the first quarter or the second quarter of the year to true up some of these numbers, but then I think we need to make sure that the spending of those dollars are accounted for.
And everybody we talked with agreed that patience is going to be the key here. And that's why Peoria County's administrator told me he's looking at May before he even considers adding marijuana tax revenues into their budget. Caitlin.